Dear students, the topic for our discussion is a very famous poem written by Nissim Ezekiel entitled Enterprise. Let's begin the discussion of the poem. On the screen, you can see the image of the poet Nissim Ezekiel. Nissim Ezekiel is considered as the father of modern Indian English poetry. So, as a title, that is the father of modern English poetry, we can imagine, we can guess the importance and the rich contribution offered by Ezekiel to modern Indian English poetry. Let's discuss the literary career and the biography of Nissim Ezekiel. As the name indicates, Nissim Ezekiel, it is not a typical Indian name because Ezekiel is from Jewish community. In Marathi, it is called Jew, right? As you know that, just like Keki Daruwala, who belongs to Parsi community, in the same way, Ezekiel belongs to Jewish community. He also worked as a poet, an actor, a playwright, that is dramatist, editor, and critic. So, Ezekiel was a multi-talented personality. He was born in Mumbai in 1924 and belonged to a Marathi-speaking Jewish community known as Bene Israel. As we know that the Parsi community belongs to the country Persia, that is Iran currently. In the same way, the Jew community belongs to Israel, the country. Most of the Jew people migrated all over the world, and some of them migrated to India. The community of Jew in India is a minority one, and Ezekiel is one of the community members. Ezekiel received BA degree in literature from Wilson College, Mumbai, that is from University of Mumbai. He later studied philosophy at Birkbeck College, London. He stayed in England from 1948 to 1952 for his higher education. And he also studied the topics like philosophy, poverty, and poetry. Ezekiel is considered as one of the prolific, multi-talented Indian writers in English of the 20th century. And because of his rich contribution to poetry, he received Sahitya Academy Award, the highest award in literature in India, in 1982 for his poetry collection, and his Latter Day Saints. He also received Padma Shri by Government of India in 1988. His poetry has different themes and styles. His poems are a depiction of his craftsmanship. Here, craftsmanship means a skilled writer, writing with skill, and intellectual approach to everyday life. So most of his poems are quite philosophical. It gives us a message to the readers. Ezekiel successfully portrays the authentic flavor of India, authentic picture of India in his poems. If you concentrate on the writing style of Ezekiel, we can find that the poets like Ezekiel, they shaped the face of modern English poetry in India. He enriched the style and the content of Indian English poetry. As you know that traditionally, the Indian writing in English poetry imitated, copied the content from the British poetry and the American poetry. But what happened in 20th century, the genuine and authentic poets like Ezekiel, they changed the total outlook of the poets with their innovative and new writing style. Ezekiel and other poets, they started writing Indian English poetry having the Indian background. So they rejected the influence of American and British poetry. So automatically, Indian English poetry received the authenticity of the soil, authenticity of Indianness. The group of contemporary Indian English poets follow the simple conversational style of Ezekiel. As you know, that Indian poets focused on the simplicity of expression in poetry. The modern Indian writers in English in general and poetry in particular, they started using day-to-day words and sentences in poetry. So they rather simplified the concept of poetry. So as a result, even an ordinary reader can enjoy and read and understand the content of the Indian poetry. So that is the biggest gift given by the modern poets like Ezekiel. So while reading the poetry of Ezekiel, we don't find ambiguity, means complexity over there. Whatever he wants to say, Ezekiel always expresses in simplest way. So use of simple and day-to-day words is one of the qualities of Ezekiel's poetry. And other poets followed this trend. That's why the poetry in English looks Indian, right? So automatically it rejected the orthodox style of writing of British poetry and American poetry. So in true sense, Indian poetry became pure Indian in content. So Ezekiel started writing poetry with Indian background, Indian situation, Indian words, local words like that. So as a poet, writing about urban alienation, he expressed the angst, means problems of many educated middle class Indians. As we know that the main theme of Ezekiel's poetry, let's say not theme, but the main setting of Ezekiel's poetry is city life. City life in general and city of Mumbai in particular. So he portrays the background of city in his poetry. So how Indian cities are, what is the lifestyle of the people living in big cities like Mumbai, what is their day-to-day culture, their language, right, their customs, all these things are explained by Ezekiel in his poets. So we don't find the description of rural area or villages in the poetry of Ezekiel. So in other words, Ezekiel is called as Bombaya poet. As you know that Mumbai is called Bombay in Hindi. So he is called as a Bombaya poet, a poet who glorifies, describes Mumbai in his poems. Right? So the people from Mumbai, the people living in city life, and especially the middle class in urban city is highlighted by Ezekiel in his poetry. Along with this, Ezekiel's poetry is full of philosophy. As you know that philosophy means a poem which gives us some knowledge, which gives us some message. And this thing is one of the features of Ezekiel's poetry. So that's why we can say that Ezekiel has changed the very face of Indian poetry in English. Let's see the collection of his poems, like a very Indian poem in Indian English. Then his most famous poem that we are going to discuss today, that is Enterprise. Then the next is Goodbye Party for Miss Pushpati S. Then next striking poem, that is Marriage. He also wrote some books like Time to Change, then Discovery of India, and Unfinished Man. So we have a very rich collection of Ezekiel over here. Ezekiel also wrote 3 plays, 3 dramas entitled, the first one as Nalini, a comedy in 3 acts. The next drama by him is Marriage Poem, a 1 act tragicomedy. The third play by Ezekiel is The Sleepwalkers, that is an Indo-American farce. Ezekiel has written some social criticism, critic essays also. First one is How Normal is Normality. Next is Tradition and All That Case Against the Hippies. Next is A Quest of Sanity. And the final one is Our Academic Community. Again, we can have a very next list of essays on art and criticism entitled as first one, that is Modern Art in India. How good is Sabwala? Painting of the Year. Then volumes of poetry also there. First one is Time to Change, published in 1952. Then comes Discovery of India in 1956, followed by The Unfinished Man in 1960. Let's move towards Nissim Ezekiel's career and his writing style. Indeed, Nissim Ezekiel occupies a unique position among Indo-Anglian poets. Let's see the word Indo-Anglian. Indo-Anglian means writers who is having Indian birth, Indian background, but they are writing in English. That is why Indo-Anglian. I repeat, Indo-Anglian means the writers having Indian background, Indian birth, and writing in English. So they are labeled as Indo-Anglian. So Ezekiel has a very prominent position in Indo-Anglian poets of post-independence era, means after independence. Nissim opposed the idealism and romanticism of earlier group of Indian writers in English. As I told you earlier, that the first initial stage of Indian writing poetry imitated, copied from British English and American English. So automatically it became quite romantic and idealistic in content, in subject. But the poets like Ezekiel, they rejected this traditional style of writing and they added Indianness to Indian poetry. Indianness means use of Indian words, use of Indian background, use of Indian setting, use of Indian places, right? And also simplicity of language. So the total face of Indian poetry in English changed due to the influence, due to the effect of Ezekiel's writing. So Ezekiel always makes use of common and local words in English. That's why he uses Indian English or Babu Angrezi in his poetry to depict the characteristics of Indian attitude. Means how the Indians use English language. So Indian style of using English he reflects in his poetry. How Indians pronounce a word, how English constructions are there, how people in India use English language, right? So that thing is added in his poetry. That's why his poetry is called as using Babu Angrezi, means local English used by Indians. The other striking thing in his poetry is irony as a weapon to depict a characteristic feature of Indian attitude. So whatever he wants to say, Ezekiel does not say in a straightforward way, right? On the other hand, Ezekiel uses the concept, the tool of irony. So he attacks on that particular issue in his poetry. In the present poem also, that entitled as Enterprise, we find a heavy use of irony over here. Let's focus our poem, that is Enterprise over here. काही अडचण येतपर्यंत मोनिका?
नाही सर.
थोडक्यात सांगायचं म्हणजे असंच की भारतीय कवितेची पूर्ण संकल्पना एजिकली चेंज केली. सुरुवातीला भारतीय लेखकांनी कविता लिहायला सुरुवात केली इंग्रजीमध्ये, त्यांना इंडो अँग्लियन पोएट्स असं म्हणतात. पण सुरुवातीला काय झालं, लिहित असताना त्यांनी काय केलं तर ब्रिटिश पोएट्री आणि अमेरिकन पोएट्री यांच्यातून बऱ्याच गोष्टी कॉपी करण्याचा प्रयत्न केला. त्यामुळे काय झालं की लिहिण्याची स्टाईल कोणती निर्माण झाली तर अमेरिकन स्टाईल किंवा ब्रिटिश स्टाईल. त्यामुळे भारतीयपणा काहीच नव्हता. अशा कवितेमध्ये अवघड शब्द, फिलॉसॉफिकल शब्द समजायला अवघड जाणं, अशा गोष्टी घडत गेल्या. पण काय झालं, स्वातंत्र्यानंतर निसिम एझेकिएल सारखे कवी एकत्र आले आणि त्यांनी नवीन लिहिण्याची पद्धत निर्माण केली. त्यामुळे भारतीय इंग्रजी कवितेचा पूर्ण चेहरा मोहराच बदलला. इजिप्त सारख्या कवींनी एक नवीन पद्धत शोधली, ती म्हणजेच काय, भारतीय पद्धत. ब्रिटिश पोएट्री आणि अमेरिकन पोएट्री यांचा प्रभाव त्यांनी झुगारला आणि नवीन पद्धतीची आपल्या मातीतली इंग्रजी कविता त्यांनी लिहायला सुरुवात केली. आपल्या मातीतली म्हणजेच काय, भारतीय शब्द यूज करतील, भारतीय सेटिंग यूज करतील. सेटिंग म्हणजेच काय, भारतीय ठिकाण, शहर असेल, ग्रामीण भाग असेल, जे असेल ते, राईट. आणि भारतीय लोकांच्या आशा, अपेक्षा, लाईफस्टाईल हे त्यांनी मांडायला सुरुवात केली. भारतीय समाजामध्ये अडचणी मांडायला सुरुवात केली. निसिम एझेकिएल त्या कवींनी काय केलं मग, अतिशय सोप्या आणि सरळ भाषेचा वापर सुरू केला. त्यांच्या कविता वाचत असताना आपल्याला साधारण जरी वाचक असला, कमी शिकलेला म्हणूया आपण त्याला, तो सुद्धा त्यांच्या कविता वाचू शकतो आणि एन्जॉय करू शकतो. तर अशा पद्धतीने त्या कवितेमध्ये भारतीयपणा जो पाझरला, तो कशामुळे तर एझिकिएल यांच्यामुळे. असं म्हणतात की एझिकिएल भारतीय इंग्रजी कवितेला एक नवीन जन्म दिला आहे. आणि आजही त्यांच्या लिहिण्याची स्टाईल ही कॉपी केली जाते. भारतीय भाषेतून भारतीयपणा त्यांनी इंग्रजी कवितेमध्ये आणलेलाच आहे. आणि इंग्रजी शब्द सुद्धा कोणते, तर अतिशय साधे सरळ आपल्या रोजच्या बोलण्यातले जे शब्द आहेत ते सुद्धा त्यांनी यूज करायला सुरुवात केली. आणि याच कारणामुळे जी कविता आहे ती आपल्याला फार जवळची वाटते, समजायला अतिशय सोपी, आणि अतिशय सोप्या शब्दांचा वापर केल्यामुळे काय होतंय, कविता जास्त आपल्याला हृदयाला स्पर्श करते. आणि निसिम एझेकिएल यांची खासियत म्हणजेच काय आहे, तर त्या कोणत्या खेड्याबद्दल लिहत नाही किंवा ग्रामीण भागाबद्दल लिहत नाही, ते फक्त लिहित आहे सिटी लाईफ. आणि त्यांचं प्रेम हे मुंबई शहरावर खूप आहे. बऱ्याचशा त्यांच्या कवितेमध्ये मुंबई शहरातले लोक, त्यांची भाषा, त्यांची लाईफस्टाईल, त्यांच्या अडचणी, आणि स्पेशली मिडल क्लास मुंबईकर्स त्यांच्या कवितेचा मूळ गाभा असतो. So he is called as an urban poet, city poet. आणि दुसऱ्या भाषेमध्ये बंबईया पोएट असंही काही जण म्हणतात. तर मोठमोठ्या शहरांमध्ये राहणारा मिडल क्लास सामान्य व्यक्ती, गरीब व्यक्ती कशा पद्धतीने आयुष्य जगतो, त्याच्या आशा आकांक्षा काय, त्याच्या अडचणी काय, लाईफस्टाईल काय, ह्या सर्व गोष्टी निसिम एझेकिएल मांडत असतात. दुसरी महत्वाची गोष्ट म्हणजे एझेकिएलच्या कवितेमध्ये असलेला फिलॉसॉफिकल टच, तत्वज्ञान, ते आपल्याला शिकवतात. जीवन कसं असावं, मानवी मूल्य, प्रिन्सिपल्स ऑफ ह्युमन लाईफ, त्या गोष्टी ते आपल्याला शिकवतात. बऱ्याच वेळा ते सरळ सरळ मेसेज न देता एखाद्या कथेतून त्याला मेसेज देत आहेत. आणि एंटरप्राइज ही आपली जी कविता आहे ती याचं फार मोठं उदाहरण आहे. एंटरप्राइज या कवितेमध्ये सुद्धा जो मेसेज द्यायचा आहे त्यांना, तो सरळ सरळ न देता एका ॲलेगरी म्हणजेच काय, एका कथेतून ते आपल्याला देत असतात. आणि यांचा जो मेसेज जो आहे तो फक्त लोकल सोसायटी पुरता नसून युनिव्हर्सल असतोच. राईट. सो युनिव्हर्सल अपील इज देअर इन द पोएट्री ऑफ निसिम एझेकिएल. आपण त्यांचं पूर्ण लिटररी करिअरही पाहिलं, राईट, त्यांची टेंडन्सी पाहिली, त्यांची फेवरेट थीम्सही आपण पाहिली. आणि निसिम एझेकिएल ही मल्टी टॅलेंटेड पर्सनॅलिटी या भारतात होती. आणि एझेकिएल यांची लिहिण्याची स्टाईल आजही अतिशय पॉप्युलर आहे.